Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. It was a lot of fun. Season's finished. We got a lot of great stuff. If you missed some action, we got live stream stuff on demand. Go to Youth Baseball Midwest. Well, right here. As soon as we're done talking, go watch a baseball game. We had a lot of fun this year. Live streaming. We just finished live streaming the Firecracker NIT out at the WAC. That's what we call it, the WAC, Warrenton Athletic Complex. Great conversations. Talked to a lot of the players. It was some serious fun. Kevin, there's some dudes as we got starting off here. Kevin Moulder on our Prime Sports Midwest call-in link. The guru himself. We got some dudes, man. I saw a young man playing for this Mineral Area Athletics team this weekend. He's a starting quarterback, athletic, hit a line drive home run, 335 feet, crushed. That ball got out. You need a stewardess on that one, man, because it just left so quickly. But
what age?
He's 14, going into high school.
Oh, man. It's a good shot.
Right. And so it's fun to talk with you about these things. These are kids that you're going to get to see probably over the next little bit and as they move into the next level, right?
It's the next wave of kids coming through.
Absolutely. Was that 2028, right? Is the next?
Oh, man.
Or no?
Yes, that's the
incoming freshman? Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So, but it was a lot of fun. We've got, remember, the All-Star Showcase coming up at the end of the month. A lot of fun there. Game7baseball.com. There's still a couple of tournaments left. We'll still be doing our tournament wrap-up shows with Dave Pinning on Tuesday mornings for the next couple of weeks, finishing up the season. So make sure you check out Game7baseball.com. Kevin, how are you, man?
Doing great. Been a busy summer, but a fun one and a good one, and gotten to see a lot of good baseball over the past month or 5-6 weeks.
It has. We got a chance to talk with Diego about the 2027s. The rankings got updated there. That was a great conversation. There's a lot of kids in that 2027 class that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think it will make impact this coming season, for their high school teams as well.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
Yeah, and some of them were already making an impact this past spring. But yes, typically when they're sophomores, you see more of them and a bigger impact. And but that one's shaping up. It's appearing to be a good class.
Absolutely. And today, folks, we're not going to get into a lot of that today, but we do want to talk about the future games that is coming up. And there's some new stuff here. I was talking with Kevin. We hadn't had a chance. It's been a while since it's been on the show, man. It's been fun. We're running around all over the state. We still got one more. We're looking forward to it. We're going to be heading over to Blue Springs for the Missouri American Legion Baseball AAA State Championships. I'm going to tell you, the Ellsbury team, these are names you're familiar with. You're talking Gavin Woodson, Brady Creech, Alex Kinney. You got Jackson Ryder from Troy over there. Who am I missing? I'm missing dudes. I know I am. Avon Weaver is on that team from Troy. This team is loaded, and they are, I think, 30-3 right now on the season. They're just kind of rolling through. I think I think they're headed to the state championship with some pretty good opportunity to win that thing.
Stacking up the W's.
Exactly. So that's Ellsbury Post 226. Jason Howard over there, those guys, they do a good job with that program. And they got some guys that are going to be playing very well for them. And I like the fact it'll be interesting watching them if they win that state championship. They'll go to the Mid-South Regional, which is being held. It's being hosted over at Ronsick Park with Kent Getsy and his group. So you're going to have all those states, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, all those coming up here. And there's going to be some good baseball, American Legion baseball right there in Washington.
Love it.
I think it's cool. It's great for the state. He's got they're hosting that this year and next year. So it'll be interesting. We're going to go over and watch some baseball. Check out some American Legion baseball. It'll be fun. That happens, I think, that's in August, middle of August. So if you folks want to watch some baseball, we'll let you know when it is, the dates, and we'll get that stuff posted out. And Ronsick Park is a fun. It's one of those old, just ballparks. They do a great job. It's got some turf on it. It's a great venue, isn't it?
That's phenomenal place, and some character to it in that older feel. So it's a fun place to watch a game.
Absolutely. So that's just a little update. But Kevin, future games right around the corner. Let's start off where we talk. We're talking junior to start with, correct?
Yeah, this week we're going to talk about the juniors and the 17. So the future games is. We've shifted it a little bit this year. We've always done the junior future games. With the new recruiting rule, and for the folks that aren't aware, you used to be able to recruit anyone at any age. So if you had a 7th grader, an 8th grader, certainly ninth graders, and a school wanted to offer them a scholarship, you could commit, take a visit, etc. They've put a stop to that, and it is now you can't receive a phone call until August 1st of your entering your junior year. So the sophomores from last year cannot get a phone call or be contacted by the schools until August 1st this summer. So it's coming, it's right around the corner. It's a couple weeks away. So the future games, we've had to make an adjustment because there was a lot of guys that were committed typically, or at least when I say a lot, we're looking at 12 to maybe 20 players committed in a Missouri class in a typical year early. Now the old rule is still phasing in, so I think we have now it's 9. We had a recent decommit, so 9 players in the class are committed that were grandfathered in, if you will. But it's significantly less than what it normally would be. So a lot of these players that we normally invite to the future games aren't getting invited because there's a higher level of player available and open. So to combat that, we started a 17U or senior future game. So the same group of uncommitted players that are entering their senior year, we got a regional team with that, which I think is a really cool concept, and I think going to be a bigger and bigger deal as we move forward once this new rule is fully in effect, because the spirit of the future games is to help kids get exposure to a lot of colleges. And last year we had over 375 schools at the event. All the big all the Power Fives were there. So it is the number one recruiting event in the country, and it is it's about a full week for me down there in Emerson, Georgia, just north of Atlanta.
This is going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing that because, as you said, you just look at the 2026 rankings. There's the kids that were just as they got into that and bumped. But, man, there's some big-time names here from that 2026 class. They won't be able to do anything till November 1st or August 1st. Will you have some of these kids on this squad? Well, we're not going to talk about them yet. That's right. I'm sorry. I'm messing up, aren't I? So,
We are going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them next Wednesday.
yes. I got ahead of myself. Pardon me, folks. But I want to go back to this. So this is about the 2025 class, the seniors at this point, right? So what are some of the kids? Because you see a lot of guys that are already committed, and I know this isn't what this is about. So who are some of these guys we're talking about for this event coming up?
So this is year one, and I fully expect this to expand because I think it's going to be a big success, and the colleges are going to like it, and the players are going to like it. It's a fun event. So we are the central region. So with the regular, I'm going to call it the regular, with the going to be juniors future games. We have Team Missouri, so it's full of all Missouri kids. You have to be from Missouri to be on the team. This is a regional team, so it's Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Colorado form a team, and a team's about 24 players. So you can run some quick math. Now, thankfully, Missouri's getting good representation, but it's extremely difficult to make the team. We're trying to bring guys that we, suspect are going to, move on to play at a solid level of college baseball because we're trying to put the best players on the field for the coaches to watch. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? The good players show up because the colleges are going to be there. The colleges show up because the good players are going to be there. And they're all uncommitted. So if you're committed, that's phenomenal. That's great. But we're not going to be able to invite those players to this event because it's kind of the secret sauce. Everyone they're watching is uncommitted, so they know they can recruit them. But from Team Missouri, we got strong representation. Luke Sullivan from Parkway South. In my opinion, he's just one of the top arms in that class, the 25 class in Missouri. Certainly one of the top uncommitted arms in that class. 6'3" or 4 right-hander out of Parkway South, and had a great spring for South. And I saw him pitch this week. He's having a phenomenal year this summer. I saw him over in Kansas City at the Super 17 event this weekend, and someone's going to get a good pitcher, and the velocity's still coming. Right now, he's pitching 86, 89, lives in the upper 80s, and what I like about him is he's a strike thrower. He lands the breaking ball, the changeup in any count, and big, tall, lanky kid, and more velocity is going to come. And he knows how to get outs. He was getting outs before he threw hard, the velocity is only going to continue to climb. So that's going to be one of the big ones there.
Just real quick on that, I got to see Sullivan pitch. I went over and watched him pitch. I hadn't seen him before. And we were going to do a live stream game with DeSmet, and I was over at the park checking out the facilities and whatnot. And we didn't get to do the live stream, but I got to see Sullivan. And one of the things you said I thought was interesting because Kellenbrink was their 1-2 punch, which that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. But I thought, I agree with you. I thought Sullivan was a much better strike thrower. Kellenbrink, he was good in that curveball, but if he didn't have that curveball, he didn't throw it for a strike, I think, as much as Sullivan did. That's my thought process to that.
Yeah, and you're splitting hairs here. They both were highly successful. Brady has he's left-handed.
Right.
There's some attributes to him that make him very special. Brady maybe a little more polished and ahead in some regards on getting outs currently, but both very, very good. And, both, in my opinion, are going to go on and do great things in college
sure.
for somebody.
And I don't mean that as I don't mean as a criticism. That's just my eyeballs, what I saw. Because I saw Kellenbrink pitch, and then I saw Sullivan afterwards, and that was just an assessment, just something I saw.
No, that's a fair assessment too, and it's like the one of the toughest things about my job is for people to understand, there's a difference between a very good high school player and someone that's going to be a good collegiate player. And you see this often. There'll be some great pitchers in high school that, are first team all conference guys, or some guys that are first team all conference players that hit for high averages. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate to the next level. So, a lot of times you'll see a high school player with a pretty decent curveball that's maybe a 77 to 80 mile per hour pitcher that throws a ton of strikes, can land the curveball on command, can even throw it not for strikes as a chase pitch. And he's really successful in high school. That doesn't necessarily work quite the same in college baseball because the hitters are so much better. Anyways, and both. That's an extreme example I'm throwing at you. But, Luke is one of the ones that we're really excited about. Another one we got coming that I'm excited about is the Festus center fielder, Brady Nolan. Plus runner, 6'6" runner, has done a good job at Festus. I think he's, going to be a guy that people are excited about. And obviously, Brian, Festus has been one of the, top teams in our area the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You got him ranked positionally 12 in the state. I love this. 6'6".
It's a big time, not height. The 6'6" runner. That guy can go, and people love speed. And you see that in the major league level. I think defense and base running and speed's become more and more a factor. So that's one reason Dean's out.
Yeah.
Another guy we got coming is really athletic kid with a big time body, 6'3" kid, Eli Seitzer from Prumbrell over in the Kansas City area. Just a good all around athlete. He's an outfielder, 6'9" runner, big arm, upper 80s arm field, and has some juice, as you might imagine, at the plate with that 6'3", 185 frame, and kind of just a well-rounded athlete that we're excited about him coming. We are bringing Crew Norden. Were you able to see Crew this spring from Rockbridge, the catcher?
I didn't see him, but I know who you're talking about. But I did not get to see him, no.
So Crew, we're excited about Crew. He's, exit velo well, into the 100s, triple digits. Big, strong catcher with a good arm. And Rockbridge is, one of our perennial powers in our state. They have a great baseball program coached by Justin Toe, and they've had good runs. And Crew's been a 4-year varsity guy there, and someone's going to find themselves a good catcher. And in the past, if you rewind and let's call it before COVID, but with the red shirt year in there and the transfer portal, these kids would have been long gone, meaning they would have been committed a long time ago. And you've seen kind of how some of this recruiting process is delayed for these players now with the transfer portal. So Crew's going to be a good one, and someone's going to get a good catcher. We're also bringing. I'm sorry.
He's thick. Just looking at
strong kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
211
strong
pounds. Kid. That's
yes.
I was just looking at his deal here. When you see him, it's pretty well stacked. 211 pounds, isn't it?
Yes, he's put together. Typical catching frame. Strong kid. Kyle Rigg, infielder from Eureka. Eureka had such a great spring this year. Kyle's a great athlete. Can play all three positions on the infield. Plays short in summertime and has the ability to play third and second, obviously. Pretty good runner and a little juice in the bat. So excited to have Kyle Rigg down. Landon Edmonds from DeSmet, center fielder. Landon was hurt this spring. So people didn't get a full, good look at Landon this spring. He had a little deal with the shoulder. He's back healthy now, doing really well. I love Landon's energy and competitive spirit. And he does a good job. And, I think he's going to have a big senior season at DeSmet when he's fully healthy. But left-handed hitter, a lot of fire, like I said, and can play the outfield. So excited to have Landon down here. And then we have Owen Nesledge, the 6'6" left-hander out of Kirkwood. I'm excited about Owen. I think we're going to look back and, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, this kid's going to be really special. It'll probably happen before then, but I think people are going to sit there and say, what happened here? Why was he uncommitted as senior? Well, he's the starting quarterback at his high school. He's starting forward on the basketball team, and he's first base left-handed pitcher. It's kind of a throwback. It's kind of the way we grew up, Brian. You play the sport in season. He hasn't been on the scene as much because of that. But there's a 6'6" left-hander with a high feel for pitching. I was able to see him this weekend over in Kansas City as well. Plus changeup, strike thrower. He's got a big sweeping curveball that's coming out of a tough 6'6" slot. The velocity isn't all the way there at this point. Right now he's pitching in the low 80s. I've seen him up to 84. He has an older brother that kind of very similar situation. Chose to go play chose to go play football in college right off the bat, then circled back and came back to play at Jeffco as a pitcher. And, velocity spiked to pitching in the low 90s, upper 80s, low 90s. And I feel pretty strongly that Owen will end up being one of those guys as well, an upper 80s pitcher, maybe touching a little better with that high feel for pitch ability. Those are the guys that usually are to watch out for, because we see these hard throwers at the young age. Well, they survive and get a ton of outs because they throw hard, right? But then hitters adjust to the velocity, and oftentimes what was hard in 8th grade, 9th grade isn't so hard anymore by the time we're playing varsity baseball. And then they don't know how to get people out because they've gotten people out by throwing hard. And if their velocity doesn't keep up, if that kid that was throwing 84 is an 8th grader, 9th grader, and that's really hard at that age. Well, 84 isn't that hard when you're, playing high-level varsity baseball. That's, probably a normal fastball. So then if you don't keep up, if you're not throwing 93 or, you get my – so the guys that spike late with their velocity, Luke Sullivan was the same guy. He is a high pitch ability guy that velocity spiked a little bit a year later than some of the other top pitchers. So I think it can be a benefit to some of these guys. They don't necessarily know it in the moment, but it works out to their advantage eventually. They just have to stay patient. And the coaches have to do some projecting and kind of earn their money on the recruiting process of, hey, I'm going to look at this kid when he's playing one sport and we have him lifting for baseball, and he's training year-round as a pitcher. Well, you can imagine what's going to happen to a kid like that that was playing multiple sports and is super athletic.
There you go. I think it's interesting. We saw that a lot this year, and you allude to back going, even in big schools, kids playing multiple sports in back then. But you see it more in the smaller schools. We saw a lot of the I was referring to a young man earlier from the Mineral Area Athletics, going to be going to Potosi High School, David Miller. He's a quarterback. He's plays basketball, 3-sport athlete, and his athleticism shows. I'm sure whatever sport he chooses really to move forward with in that respect, I think he's going to do very well, because you see the athleticism. Not to mention he pitches well, he hits well, he does it all very well. And I think there's something to be said for that to a degree.
100%. Going back to my junior college coaching days, you'd see this a lot with the small town kids, the smaller schools. The good athlete in that school was going to be the quarterback or a wide receiver or something along those lines. Then usually a starting guard on the basketball team, and then the shortstop pitcher. And we would get a lot of these kids that were great athletes that just hadn't played baseball full time. They were good baseball players, really good baseball players, but weren't as good as or polished as some of the guys that are on the scene and playing, a spring season, a summer season, and a fall season, and just in winter training. So these kids, we would get them. They'd play a year or two in junior college, and then they would explode, and people couldn't believe that you had them at that, at school, and then they'd be going to some, bigger, Division I program, and it's not really too hard to figure out why it happens, and it happens a decent amount.
There you go. And, and here's the thing, you start seeing kids that can drive the baseball, and I'm not talking about, flukes. You're talking about drive the baseball out of a 325-foot park at 14. That's a good job. That's a poke.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yes.
So, it's all relative. You see a 18-year-old hitting at 320, you kind of go, yeah, okay, I can see that. Because most high school parks, maybe 375 at the center, depending upon the school and where it's built, right?
Yeah, when and where it's built. Yeah, I'd say an average high school field's 310, 315 down the lines, and 350 to 360 in the gap, and somewhere between 370 and 385 to center. It's probably a pretty fair high school field.
Right. So, you could expect that. But 14, you start driving the ball out of the baseball park that way. I think that's pretty impressive. So let's talk about that. We talk about the junior the junior future games. You have kids and whatnot. What do you look for at this point with kids at that age, Kevin?
Yeah, it is an interesting age because there are plenty of kids that are early developed, and there's other kids that are good players that just haven't developed physically yet. And we do bring the guys that are the more developed players at this point, even though sometimes I don't want to say but you have an idea that this kid might not continue on, and as far as the kid that you're leaving behind, because today that kid is the better player, if that makes sense. So we're not trying to project. We're trying to bring the best group of kids, and usually it is the bigger and the stronger guys at that age. Just when I have a talk with these kids down there, and I let them know, like, hey, this is the best collection of Missouri players at this time that we could gather. This does not mean that you're going to end up being the best when we get to high school, when we start doing the recruiting process. Really, this is just an eye-opening experience, hopefully, for you. You get to see the future games, the older kids playing. That's kind of what it looks like. So you got a long ways to go because none of our junior future game players could jump in and play in the future games. So it can also be a little bit of a humbling and eye-opening experience in a positive manner. They're playing against the other kids. Oh man, I was the best kid in my town, and all the towns I've ever, all the teams we've played against. Well, now we're bringing them down, and we're playing. Our junior future games team, we're playing the Midwest team, which is Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, and the Dakotas. We're playing Tennessee, and we're playing California. So we're going to play the best players from those areas. they won't end up being the best player at that event. And, there'll be other really good players, and I think that's important for young guys to get to see that, because it's natural. Parents get excited. They let Johnny know how great he was and how he's the best. It's important to understand, and it's hard when you're so successful. There's a lot of good players out there, and a lot of things change too. That kid that's tall and lean and not strong enough right now ends up filling out and will catch up one day. So things change. You got to keep working hard.
You threw a couple things in there. So when you're talking about junior future games, and I don't know if you want to talk about the kids, I don't know if that's something you want to get to at this point, but these are typically kids. You talked about what you're trying to get. What's the best thought process here? Do the coaches, do the college coaches watch any of these kids, or is there anything like that? Or is this just basically for the kids' benefit to say, hey, this is where you're at on a national level?
That's the purpose of the event, the latter, what you just described. Before the new recruiting rule, we would always walk away with a number of our players getting committed. So the big schools would come down and watch our kids play. Ty Thompson comes to mind immediately. And there was a number of others that committed shortly after the junior future games, or the recruiting process picked up there, and then by that fall, they were committed. So now the coaches aren't worried about them, which is perfect. That's not an eighth grader or a kid heading into ninth grade shouldn't be worried or trying to figure out what college he's going to, in my opinion. He needs to be worried about getting off to a good start academically at his new high school. He needs to be worried about finding the weight room and learning what it is to be a good varsity baseball player. Because no matter whoever the best eighth grader in the country is, it isn't ready for college baseball yet. They got to get a lot better. So it's just putting the building blocks together. This also, it also does a bad job for these kids' psyche too, because then you would have certain kids getting recruited, other kids not. The most dangerous thing was a lot of these times when the player would commit, well, then the mindset would shift. Well, I'm the man. I'm good. I got this big school, whatever, Power 5 school, SEC or Big 12, whatever, commitment. So then that kid becomes kind of tough to coach, and maybe he doesn't work quite as hard. I've seen this happen too many times. And then they get passed by. And then there's the target on their back. And, it's baseball. You're going to have bad days. The day when you go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, oh, well, that kid's terrible. How can he be going to whatever school? So it puts – and you're dealing with that when you're 14, 15, even, years old. In a tough time in your life already. It's a fun time, but you're transitioning a lot during those early high school years, I would say. So this puts the focus back on development and allowing these coaches to coach their players and allowing the players to worry about what they need to be worried about, which is academics, the weight room, trying to become a better player. And, now I think it's pretty age appropriate as you enter your junior year. You can start thinking about colleges at that point. Then, that's close enough where you can start exploring colleges. And, the other thing is it was really unfair to the colleges too, because it's dog eat dog. They're competitive. They're all trying to get the jump on the next guy, the other school, if you will. So there was recruiting mistakes, and it not even really a mistake, but you cast a wide net and, oh, there's a good athlete, or there's a kid that looks good. We're just going to get him committed. And then they'll go back and decommit or cut the kid multiple years later once they figured out, if they developed how they wanted him or to do so. And then that puts the kid and the family in a terrible spot too, because then, you got the the mental aspect of it. But not only that, schools weren't watching that player specifically because he'd be committed to whatever school. So, if he's committed, you're not going to think, well, you're not going to go through that recruiting process with that player because it's a waste of time, right? So they're
Yeah,
doing the kids.
You're not going to put those resources there, right? Resources,
right?
It's money.
Exactly. So I think everyone wins in this situations. The college coaches are happy about it. The high school coaches are happy about it. I'm happy about it. Whether the players realize it or not, they should be happy about it, and the parents should be probably the most happy with it, honestly.
I
And,
liked
and
what you.
it starts to rein in a little bit of this madness, and this is why we have the Junior Future Games. Is the true intention of it is the competitive spirit, and for the top end players to get a look at the future, what they might be coming into here in a couple of years, and where the bar is and where they kind of need to get to.
Well, and that's the thing. You were talking about. Did they find the weight room? Most kids are looking. They can find the lunchroom and where the girls hang out. At 15, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
That's just the way it is, man. Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I like that thought process of this because most of these kids, as they're going in, and I think this goes to the point, and you're familiar with this because you see a lot of kids, you work with pitchers and things of that nature. I think it puts a little more accountability on these clubs, who you bring in to coach these teams. You got high level teams, you got kids in the mid level. What are we doing, and how? I don't dismiss dad coaches at all. I think if you got a good quality, if you got a coach that's the dad of one of these kids and he's better than the 22-year-old that you've brought in, I think we ought to reassess how we're looking at that, because the dad may have played college baseball, maybe got drafted or whatnot, didn't work out, whatnot, may have a little more knowledge than the kid playing right now. And you have different situations, and I think we maybe need to reassess how we're looking at some of those things.
I agree. I think it's so case by case, honestly. I'm a dad coach. I have an 8-year-old. I have an 8-year-old
Right.
team. So I think it is specifically case by case, honestly.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the clubs are honestly one of the other big benefit factors of the new recruiting rule, in my opinion, because now, they don't, that's a stressful situation dealing with the recruiting process with these young men. And it's already hard enough when they're juniors and of age and should be getting recruited. But that's not much fun for anybody, when they're having to make calls and try to sell ninth graders, and they do it because they have to, but they didn't want it. I assure you of that. So now it's all in a much better space.
I think it does, to your point, it's a better situation because I think, so you got this freshman team, this 15U team coming out in the summer playing after that. Where are you going to play baseball? Do I have to travel to Atlanta, Georgia all the time? Or, it depends on the level of baseball. And I think we got to begin to assess the level of talent you have on this team to where you go and play in the summer to put these kids in the right position to compete at the level they need to. Frankly, how many coaches are coming out to these ballparks at these tournaments on a regular basis to see these kids? Most of them are pulling stuff up on prep baseball.
Right.
In that respect, right?
Yeah, and you know what? This is one of the other things I love about the Junior Future Games, and I got great people, and a lot of these kids play for great coaches and are in great organizations. But Brian Ash is our head coach. I couldn't think of a better guy for it. He the only coach in the state to win 3 state championships at different levels. think he did 4A, 5A, and 6A. So he's our coach, veteran high school coach. He's going to, the kids are going to get a taste of what it's like to play for, at a for a high level high school coach. I'm certainly involved in it as well, and talk, about some of my experiences and, what coaches are looking for, and, how to go out and, try to make a varsity team, et cetera. So it is an educational process. It's a fun week.
Absolutely. And I think that's what it should be, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Kevin, always a pleasure, man. Good stuff. I'm looking forward. I hope these young men that these 2025s, these uncommitted, that to me, that's the cool experience here, because some of these guys have they've gotten there. It's going to give them a good opportunity to be in front of us, because the Future Games is a place where coaches go, correct?
It'll be packed. Yeah. Last year we had over 375 college coaches there. So yeah, if we don't hand scholarships out, but we give opportunities to kids to earn them.
There you go. And that's what it is. You got to go earn it. Last thing I want to say, and I'm hoping, because I'm seeing this more and more and more. The best thing I saw over this past weekend at the Firecracker NIT, best thing I saw was a young man who drew a walk and sprinted to first base. It's the best thing I saw. I saw some home runs. I saw some this. I saw a couple of good defense play. Best thing I saw was a sprint to first base after the walk, which showed me that this player, his attitude, everything that he had set in motion, he was there to play no matter what. And it was that energy that whole time. And I would, you could go 0 for 4 and still present very well, couldn't you, Kevin?
100%. I've been out recruiting when I saw kids go 0 for and had a bad day striking out, and still recruited them. And then there was also times when I'd go to a game and saw a kid go 4 for 4 and didn't recruit him. So, yeah, you're watching more than just the results.
There you go. So, players, remember that, please. I hope, especially at 14U, guys, it's not the end of the world. Worst thing I saw.
It's really about how you play the game and how you go about it, and some of the stuff you can't control or can work on. Coaches, skilled coaches, they can see your abilities, how fast you run, your bat speed, your swing path, your arm strength, your athleticism, how you move to a ball on defense, your base running abilities, your baseball instincts. You're watching all that. How a player carries himself. Sometimes I loved it when I got to see a player strike out on a bad call, because a good coach is going to know when it's a bad call. And seeing how the players react to that is also a positive thing. How a pitcher reacts to when the shortstop kicks a routine ground ball. Stuff like that. How people deal with adversity. College coaches and pro scouts are locked in on that type of stuff.
There you go. I love it. Kevin, as always, man, appreciate the knowledge.
Yep. Hope summer's going well.
Absolutely. We'll have Kevin back. We're gonna look at the Future Games team. What age is that? 16, right?
Going to be juniors. Yes.
Going to be juniors. We're gonna look at that team next week. So make sure you subscribe. Hit the dinger next to it, because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers, but our dingers get you notifications for upcoming episodes, not runs. So, it's a little different. But it's still fun.
Both great things. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. So, folks, appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. We appreciate all the support. I appreciate all the subscribers out there. We're growing in subscribers. We appreciate that very much. And it's nice to hear the kind words out there from the folks and the fans. It's a lot of fun. And, we hope to continue producing. We got the baseball moms coming back on. Really enjoying Jenny and Tiffany, what they're doing, talking about the mom's perspective of baseball and things of that nature. We just had we doing with the hitting zone. Mitch Thomas bringing on guests. Had Shane Eames on yesterday. It was a lot of fun, great conversation. So that's our goal. We're working to be more comprehensive in our overall scope of talking baseball, and we hope you enjoy it. Until next time, everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin, give it to them.
Keep throwing strikes.
Hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.